part of what I wanted to do is get very granular with you in this episode. A lot of times dentists come up with platitudes, the like big picture things they want to do. But I want to break it down into a very granular detail. And if you notice, we called this episode Your Monthly Growth Plan. Your Monthly Growth Plan. This episode is going to be published November 1st. So it's rather timely in that it's being published on the first day of the month. And what I mean by your monthly growth plan is, what are you going to do during the month of November to achieve your growth objective? That's how granular I want to make it. Because if growth is just some platitude that you want to experience, it becomes a wish.
Right.
Right, Naren?
Correct.
Like, yeah, I wish I could grow. Well, wishes are great. But I want to get very detailed and figure out, what do you need to do to make that wish come true? And I want you to do it every month. Now, you don't have to like lose sleep over this, but every month talk about, what am I going to do in this month to achieve my growth objective? And I would like you to do that long enough to where it becomes a habit. And it becomes a habit of you doing that each and every month. And again, this doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't have to be something that consumes you. It doesn't have to be something you lay awake at night. But what are you going to do this month? I've got this many work days. We're doing this. What am I going to do this month to facilitate growth? Our goal has been to grow by at least 10% every year. And that was measured by collections, because collections are real money in the bank account, to grow by 10% every year. And that was in years where we weren't adding increased providers. We weren't adding more hygiene days. We weren't adding another hygienist. We weren't adding another doctor. On months and years when we were adding more hygienists, more hygiene days, another doctor, then we wanted to grow 10% plus the contribution we would get from the additional producers. And if you grow 10% every year, and you heard me talk about this in the opening comment, in 6.8 years, your practice will double. That's a very different practice, isn't it, Naren? And if you're young enough to do that again, then another 6.8 years, the practice doubles again. So the $1 million practice, 6.8 years later, it's $2 million practice. Do it again for another 6.8 years, it's a $4 million practice. Very, very different. So the economics of growth are something we need to talk about. Your profitability on the top dollars is very, very, very attractive. In other words, if we can grow with the same team and the same hours, same team, same hours, all your fixed expenses stay the same. The expenses that go up are your variable expenses that are related to doing more dentistry. And there's really only two categories of variable expenses in dentistry. And that would be lab, if you use an outside lab. My budget for outside lab, if you don't have CAD/CAM or CEREC, my budget for outside lab is 8% of your revenue, 8% of your revenue. If you are using CEREC, my budget is 4% of your revenue. Let's use the higher number, so we err on the side of being conservatives. So your budget for lab is 8% of your revenue. And the only other expense theoretically that goes up is your consumable supplies. The more dentistry you do, the more consumable supplies are going to go up. And my budget for consumable supplies is 6% of revenue. So Naren, 8 plus 6 equals 14%.
Right.
Theoretically, that means theoretically that your profitability on those growth dollars, is 84%, 86%. But let's add another. So 8 plus 6 is 12. 8 plus 6 is 14. Let's add another 6% for miscellaneous expenses that go up. So 8 plus 6 plus 6 equals 20%. So let's say your overhead on the growth dollars is 20%, meaning your profitability, if we look at it in reverse, your profitability on those growth dollars is 80%. Pretty darn attractive, isn't it, Naren?
Absolutely.
So I want you to understand, I want you to really get your arms around the economy of growth, the economics of growth. Because your first collection dollars go to pay all your fixed expenses.